Every on-screen friend group usually has the hot one, which often means that someone ends up being designated as the ugly one. Though, of course, since this is Hollywood, she's almost always still conventionally attractive.
Katie, she's not pretty. I mean, that sounds bad, but whatever. The spring fling queen is always pretty.
The so-called ugly friend often exists on the sidelines as a way for the story to highlight how special and cool the hot friend is. But when she is put in the center of the narrative, she can provide a great exploration of the real problems caused by society's ridiculous beauty standards. So let's take a deeper look at this detrimental trope and where it sprang from. The way it makes it clear how arbitrary and nonsensical media and our society's ideas around beauty are, and why, thankfully, movies and shows are finally leaving it in the past. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and what is considered to be hot or beautiful changes from person to person, time period to time period. But Hollywood has some very particular long-standing ideas about what it means to be beautiful. Tropes function as a way to put characters into easily recognizable and understandable boxes for the audience, often leaning heavily on existing stereotypes so that viewers can make snap judgments about the characters they see on screen, especially for side characters. And this is particularly true for the ugly friend, who is usually given stereotypically undesirable attributes both to separate them from the beautiful protagonist and to uphold the societal order that those are the qualities that we're supposed to look down on and try to avoid. As you've likely already noticed, none of these people are actually unattractive. They've just had these signifiers added to them to indicate that their characters should be seen that way. Things like glasses, braces, pimples, bad hair, being too tall or too short, or even just focused on the wrong things that are seen as uncool, like getting good grades and actually working for them instead of just magically acing every test, band or theater. Sometimes being placed in the silo is solely based on one aspect of a character's appearance, like their weight, which is where ideas like the duff sprang from.
Sorry, as their what?
Duff. D-U-F-F. Designated ugly fat friend.
Token friends of color are also sometimes put into this box because so much of Hollywood's ideas around beauty are born out of specifically white ideals. And again, the ugly friend trope comes across as ridiculous not just because of the fact that there is no actual one way to be beautiful or hot, but also because even if we are just going by Hollywood's essentially unattainable standards, most of these characters are still beautiful. Take Jennifer Spotty trying to make Amanda Seyfried look like the ugly friend to make Jennifer look even more otherworldly beautiful.
My skin is breaking out and my hair is dull and lifeless. God, it's like I'm one of the normal girls.
Regardless of why a character was placed into the ugly friend silo, a major component of her sidelining is that guys don't think she's hot, which is, as far as Hollywood is concerned, the only thing that women and girls should care about and strive toward.
Like every group of friends has one, the one who doesn't look as good, thus making their friends look better, the one who's approachable and easy to talk to because no one's trying to get in their pants.
The beautiful friend is desired, or if she's an ugly duckling, becomes desirable when she has her swan moment, which the ugly friend never gets. Though that's not necessarily a bad thing, which we'll unpack in a bit. This creates a hierarchy between the characters, allowing the films and shows to make it clear who it thinks we should be sympathizing with and trying to be. The unattractive characters are often instead meant to serve as comic relief, and the type of person that we should avoid being.
No, Megan, no! No! Look away! Megan, no! Look away!
Which harkens back to the unfortunately very old idea that outer beauty is a sign of inner goodness, which we analyzed in our video on the terrible disabled villains trope. Because the ugly friend trope upholds pervasive damaging myths about who and what is acceptable, it can have a negative real-world impact. When people see a character that looks like them on screen, and then that person gets mocked or sidelined because of how they look, it's not surprising that that would have a negative effect on the viewer. Seeing distilled visualizations of society's harsh thoughts can lead to people then adopting those same harsh thoughts and turning them in towards themselves.
I want you to tell me what you don't like about yourself, but be honest with me.
I'm fat, and I'm ugly, and I ruin things.
And because so much of this trope is based around what men find attractive, it can also lead to women who do connect with those characters feeling like they're not allowed to love themselves, and that they should just be happy with any attention at all, even if she's being treated terribly. But as pervasive as the trope is, thankfully the narrative around the idea of being the ugly friend is changing. For a long time, if a female protagonist was unattractive, it was always part of an ugly duckling story. The only reason she was even allowed to have her story told was specifically because she would get her swan moment, cementing the idea that beauty is the key to happiness, and that fixing your outside will fix all of your problems.
I can teach you to walk, talk, sit, stand, eat, dress like a princess.
But movies and shows have tried to flip this trope, and in many cases have finally started doing away with it altogether. In her youth, Friends Monica was sidelined as the ugly friend, constantly mocked for her weight and eating habits.
I just don't want to be stuck here all night with your fat sister. Hey.
Monica, why don't you finish off these pies? I don't have any more room in the fridge.
We only see these parts of her life in flashbacks, though, because by the time we meet her on the show, she's already had her swan moment. And so now, outside of the flashbacks, is allowed to be a full, well-rounded character. This still doesn't totally free her from the problems faced by the ugly friend, though. She still gets mocked for not always having been beautiful.
Some girl ain't Monica.
Shut up. The camera adds 10 pounds.
So how many cameras are actually on you?
And, as we discussed in our video on the Hot One trope, even though she's played by the beautiful Courtney Cox, the show always makes sure to let us know that Rachel is still the beautiful friend. But other stories have instead decided to go in the other direction, showcasing characters who are deemed to be less attractive in their particular environments, but instead of changing themselves to fit in, they change their mindset to love themselves just as they are, and push back against the world that tells them that they shouldn't. On Mad Men, Peggy is immediately hit with wave after wave of 60s-era sexism about how her looks are the most important thing about her, and how she should focus on making herself hotter as soon as possible.
Wouldn't be a sin for us to see your legs. If you pull your waist in a little bit, you might look like a woman.
Compared to Venus come-to-life Joan, it would be almost impossible to not end up being the comparatively unattractive one in the eyes of the men in the office.
You're a Jackie or a Marilyn. A line and a curve. Nothing goes better together.
Which do you think I am?
Gertrude Stein.
But Peggy throws the assumption that hotness is the only goal for a woman out the window, because she doesn't want to be Joan. She wants to be Dawn. Her focus isn't on changing her looks, but on her work and climbing the ladder with her cleverness and drive.
I'd like to be the first woman creative director at this agency. That's funny to you?
No, I'm impressed that you know exactly.
New Girl's Jess Day is best friends with the supremely gorgeous actual model Cece, and so it could have been very easy for the story to pit them against each other. But instead of feeling resentful of or intimidated by Cece's beauty and the world's reaction to it, Jess just appreciates it as another wonderful part of her friend.
I'm getting married tomorrow and I look like Mike Tyson. Okay, nothing little cotton balls and olive oil can't fix. In a few minutes, we are gonna laugh about this. We will laugh.
And in turn, Cece doesn't fall into the hot girl trap and feel like she's above Jess in some kind of hierarchy. She realizes that Jess is beautiful in her own way, and more crucially, that they both have many more important qualities to them than just how they look.
Do you think if we met today, we would still be friends?
I don't know, but we're friends now.
On My Mad Fat Diary, Ray does have a very hard time dealing with learning to love and accept herself in a world that has constantly made her feel like she isn't worthy, just by virtue of how she looks.
I guess I kind of had my own stuff going on, like wondering why my best friend was growing apart from me, like wondering why I was having a secret mental breakdown.
Her problems aren't just quirky, fixed-in-an-episode down feelings either. The show opens on her return from having to receive psychiatric treatment, and she spends the entire show working to improve her self-image and believe in herself.
Every session, you say that I need to love myself. I need to start liking myself more. For months now, you're like a broken record, but you never tell me how to start.
Her major change does not come from a makeover montage or finally getting the guy, but from learning to truly love herself as she is, and accept on a deep level that she does deserve happiness and joy and love and kindness.
I want you to imagine a 10-year-old version of yourself sitting right there on this couch. What would you tell her?
That she's fine. That she's perfect.
Then that's what you need to tell yourself.
These kinds of characters are inspiring because they provide examples of personal growth and happiness that don't revolve around changing one's physical appearance. They'd rather be who they are than erase everything about themselves in the hopes of maybe being accepted. They come to the realization that, regardless of what others might say, there is nothing wrong with them, and so there's nothing to change, except removing themselves from the societal attitudes that held them back.
So instead of saying, you're fat and you're ugly, I'm gonna say, you are the person who helped your mum out, who saved your best mate, who lives with an illness, but keeps on going.
While our society has certainly not freed itself from beauty standards and exclusionary ideas around conventional attractiveness, we have come a long way. Things that were once considered signifiers of unattractiveness have been adopted as beloved parts of fashion and fun. And instead of accepting that we should feel shame for how we look if we don't fit into Hollywood's very narrow ideals, we've instead begun fighting back and accepting that we're all beautiful in our own way.
Who allowed you to be this beautiful?
Who allowed you to be this beautiful?
Who allowed you to take my breath away?
And more importantly, accepting that beauty is not the yardstick by which women should be judged, or the most important goal in our lives.
Oh, screw beautiful. I'm brilliant. If you want to appease me, compliment my brain.
Ugliness isn't real. It's just a concept created to help control how we think about ourselves and our lives. Letting go of these harmful stereotypes and learning to love yourself as you are is integral to finding happiness, as it allows you to lead a life focused on things you actually enjoy, and not just how you think you're supposed to be.
There's a part in all of us that's scared and not sure. And when you get the ability to see that in yourself, you start to see that everyone is fighting every day.
That's the take. Click here to watch the video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And make sure to subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive new videos.